Okay, climate quiz part 1. Mount Marcy often has the coldest nighttime temperatures in New York State because of its what? Latitude and planetary winds, latitude and elevation, longitude and planetary winds, longitude and elevation. Let's get rid of C and D. So you're down to latitude and planetary winds or latitude and elevation. Number 2. Okay, this I think we're going to have to use page 4, Kylie, for this one. The prevailing southwesterlies wind belt causes most low pressure weather systems to travel across the United States from the what? Okay, so you just have to find where the United States is. I'm looking at the wrong. What page is it? Page 3? Where is it? Southwesterly winds. Where is that? I haven't even looked at that.
I think you're talking about more.
No, I thought there was a. Is this one? No, there should be one on your reference table. Okay, it is on page 14. Okay. It's right in the middle. It's the planetary wind and moisture belts in the troposphere. Looks like the prevailing southwesterly winds belt that causes most low pressure weather systems to travel across the United States. So you kind of have to know about where we would be causes most low pressure weather systems to travel across the United States from the what? Southwest to the northeast. And we have to think about what he told us where our weather comes from and where it travels towards. Across the United States. So you need to figure out, is it coming from the southwest? I'm going to get rid of C and D. You have to think about what he told us about our weather, how it always comes from one direction. It travels one direction across the United States. Does that help you remind you a little bit? Okay. Number 3. Oh, he's killing me with this. Okay. Cloud, let's look at the question. Earth's entire equatorial climate zone is generally a belt around Earth that has what? High air pressure and wet weather, high air pressure and dry weather, low air pressure and wet weather, low air pressure and dry weather. Earth's entire equatorial climate zone is generally a belt around Earth that has what? Was this on one of your practice questions?
I don't think so. Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Use your best judgment on that one. Which climate condition generally results from both an increase in distance from the equator and an increase in elevation? You went over this in class. We have to think about what happens when your elevation increases. What happens to your temperature? Does your temperature get cooler or warmer? When you're, okay. So our choices are cooler temperatures, warmer prevailing winds, increased precipitation, increased air pressure. I'm going to read the question one more time. Which climate condition generally results from both an increase in distance from the equator and an increase in elevation above sea level? Number 5. The map below shows two locations labeled A and B, separated by a mountain range. The locations are at the same elevation, A and B. The arrow represents the direction of prevailing winds, and those little upside down V's are mountains. Compared to the climate, and this is kind of, he showed us this yesterday in class. It's kind of Washington State on the western side of the United States. Compared to the climate at location A, the climate at location B is most likely what? Warmer and drier, warmer and wetter,
A and B.
cooler and drier, cooler and wetter. We know that it's definitely going to be, we know that on side A, it's what? Is it, I'm not going to give you the temperature, but I know it's going to be wetter because it's taking the water off of the ocean. So we know B is drier because that could be the deserts, right? So make your best choice. Would it be A or C? Okay. Are you good, Ken? Number 6, the photograph below shows Mount Kilimanjaro, a volcano in Africa, located near the equator. Which climate factor is responsible for that snow that is seen on Mount Kilimanjaro? We're talking Africa, right? What climate factor is responsible for that snow? Would it be high latitude, high elevation, nearness to a cold ocean current, nearness to a high pressure weather center? Let's get rid of C. You good with that one, Kylie? Take your time. What would cause snow that we see? Would it be high latitude, high elevation, nearness to a high pressure weather center? If we know high pressure, high is what? What's it stand for? Lousy or happy? Happy. So we know we can get rid of D. Number 7. The arrows on the map below show the prevailing winds at a mid-altitude coastal city. The city, it's right along there, most likely has a climate that is what? Let's think about the oceans. And arid is what? Is it dry or moist? Arid, because arid and humid are two separate things. Arid is like what kind of a temperature you would find if you're in the desert. So if we know you're next to the city is right next to the ocean, what two can we get rid of? Yes. So let's think here. Would this city most likely have a climate that is humid with a small difference between the highest and lowest yearly temperatures? Or would it be humid with a large difference between the highest and lowest yearly temperatures? Number 8. Near which two latitudes are most of the Earth's major deserts located? Did he talk about this yesterday?
Whenever you see, because dry.
Make your best judgment. If I think of 0, I think of very tropical, right? And I think New York is at about 45 degrees north of the equator, and that's saying 90 degrees north, so it's definitely not A, okay? I think we could get rid of D as well.
and B.
Get rid of A and D. Number 9. The map shows 2 cities. It's supposed to be Africa. Or no, I guess it's not. Arica and Rio de Janeiro, located on opposite coasts of South America. Both cities are near sea level. The graph shows the average monthly temperatures for these cities. Okay, so average monthly temperature. So Era is about, I don't know, 22, and then it dips down. It says, why does Arica have cooler average monthly temperatures than Rio de Janeiro? So where is Arrow located again? It's along the, it's right along the coastline, right? Let's look at the look at your latitude lines. Looks like Arrow is closer to the equator, right? And we know anything closer to the equator is warmer. So let's see what our choices are. Why would Arica have cooler average monthly temperatures? Rio de Janeiro receives insolation at a higher angle than Arica. Rio de Janeiro is influenced by a warmer ocean current. Ooh, that could be. Arica is farther north than Rio de Janeiro. Arica receives yearly insolation that is less intense than Rio de Janeiro. I'm going to find. If I were to look at page 4, where it talks about surface ocean currents, it was South America, correct? Yep. So I found South America, and if I looked on the right-hand side of South America, I see the line where it says a warm current. And if I looked on the left-hand side of South America, I see the cooler current. So use that information to answer your question. I would get rid of A and D. So it's either B or C. The planetary wind and moisture belts indicate that large amounts of rainfall occur at Earth's equator because air is what? So you have to think of rainfall, lousy weather. So you have to kind of know, does the air converge or diverge? And does the air rise or sink? Okay. Think it's converging? Okay. So it's coming in for a low, right? Good. So we can get rid of C and D, and we have to know what happens with lousy, low pressure weather. Does it sink or does it rise?
Because high pressure rises, right?
I can't tell you because that's going to tell you the answer. So it's either A or B. Number 11. Snowfall is rare at the South Pole because the air over the South Pole is usually rising and moist. So if we know that it's rare, we know it's not moist, right? Snowfall is rare because the air over the South Pole is usually, it's either B or D. Because we need moisture to make snow. Okay, this is one of those diagrams he's talked about quite a bit. The cross-section below represents prevailing winds moving over a coastal mountain range. A through D represent locations. Which location will most likely have the least annual precipitation? What two can we get rid of, Kylie?
C and B.
What are the two?
A and B.
Good. Get rid of A and B. So which one will have the least amount of rain? Number 13. The map below shows an eastern portion of North America. Points A and B represent locations on the eastern shoreline. Okay, I see they've got New York and Florida. Which factor is primarily responsible for location A having a lower average yearly temperature than location B? The nearness to a large body of water. Does that make any sense? Nope. It's elevation. It's latitude. Prevailing winds. Got it? Okay. Number 14. A high air pressure, dry climate belt is located at which Earth latitude? 0 degrees, 15 degrees north, 30 degrees north, or 60 degrees north? High air pressure, dry climate belt. So if I were to look at, if you're looking at page 14, we know it can't be 0 because if I'm looking at that little circle, we've got 0 degrees latitude and it says it's wet, right? And 60 degrees also says it's wet. So it's got to either be B or C because it's got.
Where's the 15 on?
What's that?
They don't have a 15.
They don't have a 15. So
It'd be between.
I believe it's either B or C. Okay. Number 15. London, England is located at approximately 51 degrees north, 30 degrees latitude, and 0 degrees longitude. Elmira, New York is located at approximately 42 degrees north latitude and 76 west longitude. What is one reason why London has a warmer average winter temperature than Elmira, New York? London is located closer to the equator. London is located at a higher elevation. London's climate is modified by the North Atlantic Ocean current. London's climate is modified by its longer duration of insolation. I believe we can get rid of A and B. And I would look at page 4. And we know New York is on the North American plate, and it shows Europe all the way to the right. Do you see Europe all the way to the right? So why would London have a warmer average winter temperature? So it's either C or D. Its climate is modified by the North Atlantic Ocean current, or London's climate is modified by its longer duration of insolation. You all set with that one, Kylie? Okay. Number 16. Earth's polar regions have cold, dry climates because the sun's rays are at a what? So what two can we get rid of?
A and B.
A and B. Good. Cold, dry. So it's either a high angle in a lower atmospheric air that is sinking, or a high angle. No, I'm sorry. It's supposed to be either A or B. Yeah, they're cold because it has a low angle. Because the higher the sun is, the more rays we get from it. The lower the sun is, the less rays we get from it. So it's cold and dry, so it's either A or B. Number 17, here's that wonderful thing that we've been trying to find on our reference table. This is the planetary winds belt. Which wind belt has the greatest effect on the climate of New York? So you kind of have to know what is New York, and it kind of just told us Elmira, New York. What was our latitude? It was about 45 degrees north from the equator. So I see where it says 0 wet, 30 dry, and so we're somewhere in between 30 and 60. So they want to know which wind belt would have the greatest effect on our state of New York. So we can get rid of definitely get rid of D, Southwest Trades, right? And what was the other one you said, Kylie?
C.
Perfect. Get rid of C and D. What would affect the ones between 30 degrees and 60 degrees? Because that's where we fit. Number 18, the map below shows the locations of Virginia Beach, Virginia, and Springfield, Missouri. Okay. So they've got Virginia Beach along the coast and Springfield is inside. Virginia Beach experiences cooler summers and warmer winters than Springfield, Virginia Beach. And why? And he talked about this yesterday. Virginia Beach is what? Is it located closer to the Atlantic Ocean? Is located closer to the equator? Has a greater average yearly duration of insolation? Has a greater average yearly intensity of insolation? We can take away B. Good. Make your best judgment. Number 19. The lowest air surface temperatures in the southern hemisphere usually occur during the month of what? The lowest surface air temperatures in the southern hemisphere occur during the month of January, April, July, or October. Make your best judgment. This is the last one for this one. What do we got? City temperatures, City A, City B. Both cities have an average yearly temperature of 11 degrees Celsius. But City B has a much greater temperature range than City B has because City A is most likely where? Closer to the equator, farther from a large body of water, has more rainfall, has stronger prevailing winds. So we can get rid of A and we can get rid of C. We'll see how many questions we have on this, Kylie. I'm not sure how far we'll get. How many are there? Yeah, I don't. We'll go do at least. Let's see. We got. What's number 1? Cross section below represents the windward and the leeward sides of a mountain range. Arrows show the movement of air over a mountain. Points X and Y represent locations on that Earth's surface. Describe how the air's temperature and water vapor content at point X is different than the air's temperature and water vapor at point Y. So we'll talk about, is there less rain and what is it cooler and more rain on X, and what is it like on point Y? So you can say near point X the temperature is blank, or you can just put X temp is this, and is it dry or is it moist with possible rainfall? And then make sure you put Y would have, what kind of a temperature would it be there? Okay, would it be warmer or cooler? And would it be wetter or drier? Are you good with that one, Kylie? Okay, let's see what they want for number 2. The map below shows the locations of 3 volcanoes on the island of Hawaii. The arrows represent the direction of planetary winds. Points X and Y represent surface locations on that island. Okay. Explain why location X usually receives less annual precipitation or rain than location Y. You can talk about what? Location Y is it closer to the coast? And what happens when you're closer to the coast?
Not more.
And you can talk about
Isn't it dry or something like that?
what's that?
Isn't it dry?
I can't say. Because it's saying that X receives less rain than Y. And you have to talk about why does Y, letter Y, get more rain? Talk about where it's located. Okay, why does Y get more rain than location X? Okay. Okay, you good with that one, Kylie? Okay, number 3. We're looking at a map. It says, explain why the noontime winter air temperatures in Miami, Florida are usually higher than the noontime winter temperatures way up here in New Jersey. And he's talking noon. And what do we know about noon and the sun? Is that usually at its highest angle?
Yeah.
And that's kind of, think of it's something to do with the sun. Because you're talking about winter. Mrs. Weston, are you free for just a second? I just got BOCES. And she's just finishing up this one.
Perfect.
And then I think there's just a couple left.
Sounds good. Number 4. It says base your answer to the following questions on the graph below, which shows the average monthly temperatures for a year for city X and city Y. Both cities are located at the same latitude. So explain why city X has a greater difference between summer and winter temperatures than city Y.
Could the following students please return to class? Emily Wood, Gabe Birch, and Olivia Montal. Again, please return to class. Emily Wood, Gabe Birch, and Olivia Montal.
So then number 5 says, base your answer to the following questions on data tables 1 and 2 and on the hurricane tracking map below. Table 1 represents the storm track for an Atlantic hurricane. Location, wind velocity, air pressure, and storm strength are shown for the storm's center at 3 p.m. Greenwich time every day. Table 2 shows a scale of relative storm strength, and the map shows the hurricane's path. So the question it's asking you is, it says the hurricane did not continue moving towards the same compass direction during the entire period shown by the data table. Explain why the hurricane changed directions.